So may I call on Shanaia Talosig for the prayer po.
In the name of the Father, of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Dear Lord and Father of all, thank you for today. Thank you for ways in which you provide for us all, for your protection and love. We thank you. Help us to focus our hearts and minds now on what we are about to learn. Inspire us by your Holy Spirit as we all listen and write. Guide us by your eternal light as we discover more about the world around us. We ask all this in the name of Jesus. Amen. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
So ayan, may I request Miguel Maranatha to share the PowerPoint. And thank you. So good day everyone. So before we proceed to our topic, let us first discover what are the learning objectives of this lesson. So next slide. So the learning objectives. At the end of the class, students shall be able to define what are non-communicable diseases or what we call NCDs, classify NCDs, explain what causes these diseases, identify individuals who are likely to acquire NCDs, to describe symptoms of NCDs, analyze the effects of lifestyle factors to NCDs, apply preventive and control measures for NCDs correctly, and lastly, create a campaign or program to spread the word about non-communicable diseases. So ayan, before we proceed to our topic, can somebody tell me what comes into your mind when you hear the words non-communicable diseases? So ayan, lovely.
Non-communicable diseases do not spread through infection or through other people, but are caused by unhealthy behaviors.
So thank you for answering, lovely. What about the others? Wimzee.
So, whenever I hear non-communicable diseases, I often associate it with heart disease, cancer, chronic respiratory disease, and diabetes. And just what like Lovely said, these kinds of diseases do not spread or infect others, but they can be as dangerous and as fatal as communicable diseases po.
So very good. All of your answers are correct. So to proceed to our topic, next slide. Non-communicable diseases or NCDs are also known as chronic diseases. They tend to be of long duration and are the result of a combination of genetic, physiological, environmental, and behavioral factors. So the term NCDs refer to a group of conditions that are not mainly caused by an acute infection, resulting in long-term health consequences and often create a need for long-term treatment and care. So NCDs are the leading cause of death worldwide and represent an emerging global health threat. Next slide. So the four main diseases that are dominant in NCD mortality and morbidity. Next. So these four groups of diseases account for over 80% of all premature NCD deaths. So the first one is the cardiovascular disease. It includes heart disease and stroke. So this is a group of disorders sa heart and blood vessels. So these diseases are usually associated sa pag-build up ng fatty deposits sa loob ng arteries, or this is what we call atherosclerosis. So second is diabetes. It is a metabolic disorder in which the body is unable to appropriately regulate the level of sugar, specifically glucose in the blood. So either by poor sensitivity to the protein insulin or it is due to inadequate production of insulin by the pancreas. Third, is the chronic respiratory disease. So this refers to chronic diseases of the airways and other structures of the lung. Includes chronic obstructive disease and asthma. So the fourth is the cancer. This refers to the rapid growth and division of abnormal cells in a part of the body. So these cells outlive normal cells and have the ability to metastasize or invade parts of the body and spread to other organs. Next slide. So next topic is key facts about non-communicable diseases and statistics. First, non-communicable diseases are the leading cause of death globally, which kill 41 million people each year, equivalent to 74% of all deaths globally. So because the risk factors that can lead to having non-communicable disease are common, like unhealthy diet, lack of physical activity, tobacco, harmful use of alcohol, raised blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. So 4 out of 5 or 80% NCD deaths occur in low and middle income countries. So vulnerable and socially disadvantaged people get sicker and die sooner than people of higher social positions, especially because they are at greater risk of being exposed to harmful products such as tobacco or unhealthy dietary practices. And also yung sa health services, nalilimit yung access nila. So worldwide, 80% of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes is currently preventable. So there are some keys to prevent NCDs like heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes, which are healthy diet, regular physical activity, and not using tobacco products. So NCDs are not only a health issue, but also closely connected to factors such as nutrition and physical activity, education, the results of urban planning, agriculture, and trade. So NCDs affect all ages and all stages in life, from the pregnant mother to childhood, uh, to adolescence, adulthood, and an old age. So next, NCDs are a cause and effect of poverty. So people living in poverty usually lack access to medical care facilities with professional doctors. Prenatal care and nutrition are unavailable to mothers during pregnancy. So therefore, yung mga anak nila hindi nare-reach yung full potential kasi nga wala silang proper care against these diseases, infections, or malnutritions. Next slide. So NCDs are linked to gender, ethnicity, age, and socioeconomic group. So each year, 17 million people die from a NCD before age 70. 86% of these premature deaths occur in low and middle income countries. Last key facts. Cardiovascular diseases account for most NCD deaths, or 17.9 million people annually, followed by cancers, 9.3 million, chronic respiratory diseases, 4.1 million, and diabetes, 2 million, including kidney disease deaths caused by diabetes. Ayan, for the next naman na subtopic dito sa non-communicable diseases, it will be the classifications of NCDs or non-communicable diseases. So according to the World Health Organization, may three main types of non-communicable diseases. The first one is, please, next slide, is cardiovascular diseases. It is a disorder affecting the heart and blood vessels. Yan. Example ng coronary heart disease, yan yung mga angina, heart attacks, and heart failure. Next naman, meron din tayong tinatawag na stroke. Tapos meron pa, the next one is yung peripheral arterial disease. Tapos meron din tayong tinatawag na aortic disease, which compose ng mga examples gaya ng aortic aneurysms, aortic valve disease, and aortic intramural hematoma, and marami pa pong iba. Okay, next. Wait lang guys, isaksak ko lang yung charger. Ayan, sorry for the inconvenience po. So the second one is yung chronic respiratory disease. It is a chronic disease of the airways and other structures of the lungs. So as said dun sa PowerPoint, respiratory, so ito yung mga sakit na dulot na it can be sa airways or other structures of the lungs. Example nito yung may tinatawag tayong coronary heart dichronic obstructive pulmonary disease or yung sinatawag nating COPD. I'm sorry, it's a coronary heart chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Kagaya nito is yung tinatawag nating bronchitis, chronic bronchitis, or emphysema. Next naman, yung under chronic respiratory diseases din, meron din tayo tinatawag na asthma, lung cancer, cystic fibrosis, and sleep apnea. Sa occupational lung diseases naman, meron tayo tinatawag na examples under here is yung asbestosis, yung black lung disease, silicosis, brown lung disease, and yung hypersensitivity pneumonitis. Ayan. Before we proceed naman, yung diniscuss lang dito yun yung mga classifications, and under that, sinasabi natin dito yung mga examples. Ayan. Before we proceed sa third classification, which is diabetes, can someone from the class tell me something about diabetes, or ano nga ba ang dahilan bakit nagkakaroon ng diabetes ang isang tao? Please, Miss Jenine, Wimzee? I'm sorry. Miss Lovely.
Nagkakaroon po ng diabetes yung isang tao kapag yung katawan niya is hindi nakakapag-produce ng enough insulin po.
Okay, tama. Ang diabetes ay isang chronic disease wherein the body cannot produce enough insulin or effectively use the insulin. Kaya naman, when cells stop responding to insulin, the too much blood stays in your bloodstream. So, let's proceed dun sa my next slide, please. Ayan, sabi niya dito, with diabetes, your body doesn't make enough insulin or can't use it. So, when there isn't enough insulin or cells stop responding to insulin, too much blood sugar stays in your bloodstream. So may tatlo tayong types ng diabetes. First is yung type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is the result of an autoimmune reaction wherein the body attacks itself by mistake. So the initial response kasi prevents your body from producing insulin. So yung type 1 diabetes affects mostly ang mga children, mga 5 to 10%. It is usually diagnosed in children, teens, or young adults. Next naman, yung tinatawag nating type 2 diabetes. So, sa type 2 diabetes, the body doesn't use insulin well. We can't keep
and can keep blood sugar and it at normal level. So dito sa type 2 diabetes kasi, it is a lifestyle related and it develops over time. So, pag sinabi mong lifestyle related, ibig sabihin, dito na pumapasok yung your behaviors when it comes to how you deal with your own life. Kaya may mga tao na wala man silang diabetes noon because of their decisions and their lifestyle decisions, nagkakaroon sila ng type 2 diabetes. Next naman is yung gestational diabetes. So, gestational, this develops during pregnancy in women. So, dito, it is a condition that when you are pregnant, the level of your blood sugar becomes high. Ayan. So, yun yung 3 main types ng diabetes. So, after discussing the classifications of NCDs, aalamin naman natin what are the risk factors for these non-communicable diseases. So, when we say risk, ano nga ba ang una pumapasok sa isip natin? Or someone from the class tell me, what does it mean when we say risk? So, may I call on Miss Shanaia Talosig?
A risk is the likelihood of the unwanted event po.
Okay, tama ka ulit, Miss Shanaia. So, meron kasi yung times na there's a confusion, di ba, between risk and hazard. Kapag sinabi nating hazard kasi, it is something that could potentially cause harm. For example, yung extension wire nyo sa bahay, nakaharang sa daan, o kaya dito sa table, nakaharang siya dun sa may daan sa likod mo. So therefore, yung extension wire na yun is something that can possibly cause harm. Kasi nga, nakaharang siya. So, yung tama, kaya nung sabi ni Miss Shanaia kanina, ang risk is the likelihood of the unwanted event or yung accident or yung mga pwedeng mangyari dahil dun sa may hazard na yun. So, yung risk dito, yun yung baka matapilok. Baka matapilok siya. Okay? Ano pa? Yes, baka matapilok siya. Okay. So, yan. For the next one, yung risk factors for non-communicable diseases. First is physical inactivity. Physical inactivity is defined as less than 5 times of 30 minutes of moderate activity per week, or less than 3 times of 20 minutes of vigorous activity per week, according to World Health Organization. So physical inactivity, ibig sabihin, it is a determinant of energy expenditure, and thus it is fundamental to energy balance and weight control. Kasi nga dito na pumapasok yung harmful effects of not getting enough physical activity. Yung first dito yung sa heart disease, ano nga ba ang effects or harmful effects of not getting enough physical activity in terms of heart disease? So not getting enough physical activity can lead to heart disease. Even for people who have no other risk factors, it can also increase the likelihood of developing other heart disease risk factors, including your obesity, high blood pressure, high blood cholesterol, and type 2 diabetes. So, di ba nga, if you're going to relate it in real life, madalas especially sa mga Filipino, yung mga pagkatapos nila kumain is parang, 'di ba, invest na magkaroon ka ng energy to do something, then you were likely na matutulog na lang. So yun yung sa atin kasi medyo tamad tayo when it comes to exercise. Kaya very common ang non-communicable diseases, especially in heart diseases, dito sa atin, especially sa mga Pilipino. Next naman yung type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes or not getting enough physical activity can raise a person's risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Kasi physical activity, di ba, helps control blood sugar. Kagaya nung sinasabi natin kanina, doon sa may isang sa physical inactivity, it is a key determinant of energy expenditure and fundamental to energy balance, and weight control. So, ibig sabihin, kapag hindi mo na a-achieve yung right amount ng physical activity, it tumataas yung risk mo or yung likelihood na magkaroon ng type 2 diabetes. And kagaya niyan, 'di ba, yung pag nag-physically active ang isang tao, nakokontrol yung blood sugar, yung weight, yung blood pressure, and nire-raise yung tinatawag nating good cholesterol and nalo-lower yung tinatawag nating bad cholesterol. Next naman is yung cancer. Yan. Before we proceed naman dun sa cancer, let's have parang a little sharing about my experience kasi sa type 2 diabetes na yan. Dito kasi, sige, mamaya na lang. Sa cancer, okay, cancer. So, getting the recommended amount of physical activity can lower the risk of many cancers, including cancers of the breast, colon, and uterus. So, regular physical activity is one of the most important things people can do to improve their health. Moving more and sitting less have tremendous benefits for everyone, regardless of age, sex, race, ethnicity, or current fitness level. Next naman, sa cigarette smoking. According to CDC or yung tinatawag nating Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, cigarette smoking harms almost all organs in the body and causes many diseases. It reduces the health of smokers in general. So, ibig sabihin, mostly kasi sa smoking really affects the respiratory system. Pero, syempre, it also affects other parts of the body or other systems of the body, kagaya ng circulatory and reproductive. Ayan. So, osteoporosis. And another one is yung osteoporosis and yung menopause. So, dito sa osteoporosis and menopause naman, smoking is a risk factor for osteoporosis and in women may result in early menopause compared to a non-smoker. Ayan. Other dito yung cancer. Please back po muna. Ayan, yung cancer. Ayan, di ba kagasabi ko kanina, cigarette smoking mostly mainly cause din siya ng cancer, especially your lung cancer. Hindi lang yun kasi this includes yung makikita mo sa mga smokers nagbablock yung lips nila or yung mapapansin mo na parang ang payat nila, yung iba yung aura talaga. Mga ganon. Kagaya, example, it can also affect yung tongue, mouth, nose, esophagus, throat, voice, mga ganon. Next naman yung breathing problems and chronic respiratory conditions. Dito na pumapasok yung COPD or yung tinatawag nating chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It is a serious, progressive, and disabling condition that limits airflow in the lungs. So, active smoking also worsens asthma. Inactive smokers is associated with an increased risk of asthma in adolescents and adults. Hindi lang dito pumapasok yung effect din ng harmful effects ng cigarette smoking kasi hindi lang siya sa active users, 'di ba? Merong mga lumalabas sa sources na ang effects ng cigarette smoking nakakaapekto din siya sa mga tinatawag nating second-hand smokers. Ayan, sa second-hand smokers. Next is yung diabetes. Ayan. Yung slide po, please. Nawala yung slide. Pa-share po ulit ako ng screen. Ayan, sorry for the inconvenience. So, ayan, sabi ko kanina, it does not only affect your active smokers, it also affects yung mga taong tinatawag nating second-hand smokers. So, next one, yung hindi lang siya sa respiratory conditions, yun din nagkakaroon din siya ng effect when it terms sa heart disease din, stroke, and blood circulation problems. So, dito, smoking is a major cause of cardiovascular disease, such as heart disease and stroke. So smoking increases the risk of blood clots, which block blood flow to the heart, brain, or legs. So some smokers end up having their limbs amputated due to the blood circulation problems caused by smoking. So ang share ko lang din naman dito kasi meron akong, kunwari, ang example, so our little parang kwento is yung I have a cousin, nung umuwi ako ng probinsya last year, ano siya, how do I say this? May addiction sa cigarette smoking. Malakas siya magsigarilyo. Hindi lang yung sigarilyo na yung ginagamit din ng matatanda. Magbe-vape din siya. Almost everyday nakakailang pack siya. Tapos nung umuwi ako ng Tugigaraw, few months, 2 to 3 months after na hospital siya. Tapos, na-hospital siya, tapos nagkaroon ng tubig yung lungs niya. Yung una, ang akala magiging okay kasi matatanggal lang yung tubig sa lungs. Pero it turns out naman na nagkaroon ng bukol yung lungs niya. So, pinabiopsy. And pinag-pray namin na hindi matutuloy yung, na hindi malignant yun or hindi cancer. Pero it turns out naging cancer yung, meron sa kanya. And ayun, na hindi na realize late na agapan, late na rin kasi nung na-hospital na siya, parang tuloy-tuloy na rin. Parang wala nang, siyempre, di ba pag tinawag mo cancer, pag sabi mo cancer, siyempre wala nang cure kapag stage 4 na. So, ayun. I think it took 3 to 4 months lang namatay na rin siya. So, yun lang. I'm not saying this na parang, okay, students, let's not make it a habit na, si ganito, ganyan, na huwag natin tularan yan kasi ganyan yan. Di ba? Meron kasi yung ibang tao na kapag sinabi natin, kumari, smoker siya. Ganyan yung naging buhay niya. Huwag natin tularan kasi masama. At I think it's better to say naman na when you grow up, di ba? Do something better. Maging inspiration mo to help those kind of people. Siyempre, future RMTs, future healthcare professionals. So, let's not make it na parang kasalanan nila. Siyempre, nangyari na yung sa tao, di ba? Don't add more fuel to the fire. Instead of helping the person, huwag mo nang palabasin na nagkamali yung tao, di ba? So, let's continue. Next is yung sa my unhealthy eating. Next slide, please. So, unhealthy eating, yung tinatawag natin na obesogenic, is one of the major risks responsible for the global increase of cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, and obesity worldwide. So, hindi lang siya yung other factors na nakakakos din ng cancer or cardiovascular disease. Isa rin ang unhealthy eating. So, ano nga ba ang harmful effects of unhealthy eating? Ayan. First is overweight and obesity. Ano nga ba sa overweight and obesity? So, eating a healthy diet along with getting enough physical activity and sleep can help children grow up healthy and prevent overweight and obesity. Dito natin mapapansin, di ba, yung example, yung sa United States, 20% of young people age 2 to 19 years old and 42% of adults have obesity, which can put them at risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers. So parang it's very alarming kasi wag natin i-take yung granted na porket bata pa tayo, okay lang na ganito ganyan kasi marami na nga yung cases na yun na kahit bata kagaya nung sinabi ko, marami na nagkakaroon ng sakit alam bata mo pa tapos meron ka ng diabetic ka na, tapos magkakaroon ka agad ng high blood or yung hypertension. So let's not take it for granted. Next naman is yung heart disease and stroke. Two of the leading causes of heart disease and stroke are high blood pressure and high blood cholesterol. So consuming too much sodium can increase blood pressure and the risk for heart disease and stroke. Current guidelines recommend getting less than 2,300 milligram a day, but for example, Americans consume more than 3,400 milligrams a day on average. So dito na pumapasok din yung kasi sabi dito, 'di ba? Ang sabi ko kanina na take consuming too much sodium. So bawas-bawasan natin yung pagkain ng mga maalat o yung tingnan natin especially yung mga processed foods. Processed foods na yung kagaya ng instant noodles, yung mga ano ba yun, tocino, mga ganyan. That can really be risk or put a person at greater risk na magkaroon ng heart disease din. Ayan, sabi dito, over 70% of the sodium that Americans eat come from package and kaya ng sabi ko, from package and processed store-bought and restaurant foods. O hindi lang yung hindi lang dito pumapasok yung processed foods, including din dito yung mga fast food chains gaya ng McDo, Jollibee, Chowking. Yung mga yan kasi is parang mabilisan kasi yung 'di ba? Hindi rin maganda yung palaging kumakain ka sa mga fast food chain. Mas maganda pa rin yung lutong ulam talaga. It's not actually dito naman sa eating habits naman kasi wala namang bawal talaga. As long as you do have control and discipline, okay lang, okay lang. Kasi anything that is too less can be harmful and anything that is too much is harmful. Next is yung type 2 diabetes. So, people who are overweight or obese are at increased risk of type 2 diabetes compared to those who are healthy because over time, their bodies become less and able to use the insulin they make. So, di ba sabi rin kanina, ang type 2 diabetes is caused by lifestyle-related conditions. So, so dito sabi dito pumasok yung unhealthy eating kasi syempre lifestyle related na rin yun. So for example, of US adults, 96 million, more than 1 in 3 have pre-diabetes and more than 8 in 10 of them don't know if they have it. Ayan. Although the rate of new cases has decreased in recent years, the number of adults with diagnosed diabetes has nearly doubled in the last 2 decades as the US population has increased age and became more overweight. So dito another example ko dito. Actually parang wala lang. Another example ko dito, meron kasi akong tita na diabetic din. Actually hindi naman ata talaga siya diabetic noon. Pero malakas kasi siya mag-coke. Basta coke everyday nakakailang litro. Basta everyday yun. And there came such a time na naging diabetic talaga siya. Yun yung lifestyle related na siya kasi lagi siya nagdi-drink ng Coke. 'Di ba? Unhealthy eating na rin yun. Tapos yun, umuwi, yung the same year yung sinasabi ko kanina na namatay yung pinsan ko, yun, nandun ako, na-amputate pa yung paa niya, okay, buhay, okay pa siya. Naka-amputate na talaga yung paa niya kasi parang 2 years or 3 or 4 years ago, pumunta siya ng CVMC. Tapos kailangan ma-amputate yung leg niya kahit natanggal ata yung left, natanggal yung left niya na leg. Tapos after yun, ang una kasing namatay is yung pamangkin niya. Tapos pagka-uwi ko din yun, I think, ayun ko, parang maliit kasi yung difference nung time kung kailan sila namatay. So it was really difficult kasi, alam mo yun, namatayan ka ng anak, tapos yung kapatid mo namatay din. So ayun. Share ko lang. So ayun. Parang it was really difficult kasi hindi rin ako nakauwi. So next, cancer. Sa cancer, syempre an unhealthy diet can increase the risk of some cancers. So consuming unhealthy food and beverages such as yung sugar-sweetened beverages and highly processed food, ayan, gaya ng sabi din kanina, can lead to weight gain, obesity, and other chronic conditions that put people at higher risk of at least 13 types of cancer, including endometrial or tinatawag ding uterine cancer, breast cancer in postmenopausal women, and colorectal cancer. So yung colorectal cancer is mostly related associated with eating red and processed meat. Processed meat. So next slide, please. So ayan. 4 is excessive alcohol drinking. So sabi dito, chronic heavy drinking is detrimental to health and is associated with a number of health conditions. So excessive alcohol intake can damage multiple organs, result in the different chronic conditions, and increase the risk of dangerous accidents. So nagkakaroon siya ng um, problems or yung result ng excessive drinking, hindi lang siya nakaka-affect sa multiple organs, it can also cause accidents. Hindi lang sa'yo, pati sa ibang tao. So, first one, the harmful effects of excessive drinking is yung liver disease. So, liver disease describes any condition that damages the liver and affects its function. Alcohol-related liver disease specifically refers to conditions that occur due to overconsumption of alcohol. So example nito yung alcohol-related liver disease, yung tinatawag nating hepatitis, liver fibrosis, or yung cirrhosis. Ayan. Next naman is yung cancer. So evidence suggests that alcohol is a carcinogen. So, nagbasa din ako, sabi dito yung alcohol kasi, di ba rich sa ethanol and ethyl alcohol. So parang yung sa strong consensus sabi dito, according to sa CDC or sa sa National Cancer Institute. So sabi dito, there is a strong scientific consensus that alcohol drinking can cause several types of cancer. Kaya nung sabi ni kanina. And the normal toxicology program of the US Department of Health and Human Services lists consumption of alcohol beverages known as your human carcinogen. So yun, di ba, yung carcinogen na yun is yung nagkakos din ng cancer. Ayan. Next naman yung osteoporosis. Di ba, osteoporosis refers to the decrease in bone density, which makes the bone more porous and weak, increasing the risk of fractures. So evidence notes that alcohol can negatively affect bone health and increase the risk of developing osteoporosis. Syempre, yung alcohol mo, sinasabi ko, osteoporosis, it decreases bone density. So, ibig sabihin, it interferes with your calcium balance, your vitamin D production, cortisol levels, adding to the potential weakening of bone fractures or increasing the risk of fractures. So, alcohol can impair coordination. It may also increase the risk of a fall that could cause a fracture. Next is yung heart disease. So, heart disease and cardiovascular health. heavy alcohol consumption can lead to the development of heart condition. So regular drinking too much alcohol can raise a person's blood pressure, which is known as also your hypertension. So this is because heavy alcohol use can trigger the release of hormones that cause blood vessels to constrict or narrow. Diba? Especially ano ba ba, ang alam ko lang na example kasi na mataas sa cholesterol din is yung red horse. Makikita mo sa mga matatanda, di ba, ang hilig nila uminom. Kaya laki din ng tiyan nila. Mostly of them is may high blood din. Hindi ko naman sinasabing lahat, pero some of them, mahilig din uminom, yung parang araw-araw umiinom na rin. So, which is not good too. So, ayan. This can put an extra strain on the heart and result in the development of cardiovascular diseases such as congestive heart failure and heart attacks. Next naman, yung sa radiation na. Next slides, please. Ayan. Radiation, the emission of energy as moving subatomic particles or electromagnetic waves is known as radiation. So many naturally occurring radioactive substances that can be found in soil, water, air, and the body produce natural radiation. So, people, alam mo naman natin na, di ba, nakaka-consume ang people through in the form of food or water or yung breathable air every day. Kunwari, dito yung X-ray equipment, yung ginagamit, or yung radiopharmaceuticals na ginagamit sa radiotherapy or any kind of diagnostic procedures or any other kind of medical devices are currently most prevalent artificial sources din siya ng radiation exposure for humans. Ayan. Radiation exposure can occur externally or internally. Pwede rin yung pwedeng inhalation or ingestion or absorption through a contaminated wound. Or pwede rin externally and internally or yung medical or occupational. So, how does radiation affect my health? Yan. Sabi dito, excessive exposure to radiation may damage living tissues and organs depending on the amount of radiation received. The extent of the potential damage depends on several factors gaya ng type of radiation, sensitivity of the affected tissues and organs, the manner and length of time exposed, the radioactive isotopes involved, and characteristics of exposed person. Pwedeng age, gender, or any kind of underlying condition or may sakit or may iba pang sakit yung tao. Ayan, so radiation dose affects the likelihood of experiencing negative health impacts. The likelihood of negative consequences increases with dose. The risk is significantly reduced if the radiation dose is minimal or the delivery is prolonged, since the body will heal any damaged cells and molecules. So what are the health effects of radiation exposure? So radiation can cause acute side effects such as nausea and vomiting, skin redness, hair loss, radiation burns, acute radiation syndrome, and even death at very high doses. Kaya nga napapansin din, di ba, kapag sabi ko kanina, anything that is too much can cause harm or even kill a person. So kaya dito sabi dito, even death at very high doses. So parang example siguro nito is yung mga na-expose sa mga factory, 'di ba? Yung chemical factories. So pag hindi maayos yung ventilation ng factory na, syempre may expose yung mga employees nila. And some of them can ingest or inhale that yung radiation, yung doses ng radiation na yun that can really cause death. Ayan. So yung two most common forms ng radiation is yung ultraviolet. Ultraviolet at yung ionic radiation kagaya ng X-ray or gamma rays. So UV radiation adversely affect the genes, di ba? And the cell enzymes causing the DNA. Yung DNA natin is parang madedestroy siya. Yung ionizing radiation naman causes tissue and cell damage by breaking the DNA molecule. Yung pinaka primary source ng UV radiation is yung solar radiation, 'di ba? Yung mismong light. Yun yung major source din ng, or major reason din ng nagkakaroon ng skin cancer worldwide. Next naman is yung viruses. So viruses play an important role in the development of certain cancers. So when viruses infect a person, they distribute their DNA throughout the body, changing the genetic composition of healthy cells and perhaps leading to the development of cancer. For instance, yung HPV infection, nagre-result sa DNA of the virus fusing with the DNA of the host. So, i-interfere niya ngayon yung cell's ability to function normally. Yung pag na-interfere yung immune system ng katawan, syempre yung some viruses such as your hepatitis C virus or yung HCV will raise a person's risk of getting cancer. Syempre, sabi ito, most of the time, a particular virus only affects a certain type of cell in the body. Example, common cold viruses exclusively attack the nose and throat lining. So this explains why specific viruses are only associated with specific types of cancer. And next naman is cervical cancer. The second most prevalent cancer in women globally is primarily caused by a powerful strains of HPV virus, even though the majority of those who contract the virus do not go on to develop cancer. And at the same time of diagnosis, patients with HPV should have the necessary testing done. So dito po papasok yung mga screening checks or yung screening checks na nagagawa sa hospital. So, meron din yung tawag, di ba, yung pap test or yung pap smear na ginagamit ng medical professionals or healthcare professionals to identify precancerous alterations in cervical cells sa mga babae, facilitating early intervention strategies intended to stop cervical cancer from forming. So yung prevalence ng cervical cancer, bumaba ito ever since na-invent yung pap test o yung pap smear during 1950s. Ayan. But also, yung HPV isn't only linked to cervical cancer. It can also be linked to vaginal, vulvar, anal, and head and neck cancers, making education efforts all the more critical to prevention. So, paano, sabi dito, next one is yung viruses that are frequently associated with cancer include the following. So, yung first is yung the risk of nasopharyngeal cancer. So, several types of fast-growing lymphomas and some stomach cancers is increased by infections with the Epstein-Barr virus or your EBV. It is a type of herpes virus most famous for causing infection mononucleosis or yung mono. So, EBV infections are widespread, similar to HBV, although EBV-related cancer is not. So next naman is yung viral hepatitis. It is a type of liver illness brought by the HBV or yung hepatitis B virus and HCV. So these are rare but chronic liver infections brought on by HBV and HCV increase the risk of liver cancer. So infection with HBV or HCV is connected to less than half of liver cancer cases in the United States, for example. Next one is yung non-lymphoma Hodgkin's or yung NHL. It is a lymphoproliferative malignancy with an unknown etiology in which cells undergo microscopic alterations. Pag sinabi mo unknown etiology, ito yung hindi, in simpler terms, ito yung hindi nila alam yung cause or it is unknown cause kung bakit nga ba nangyayari yun. Basta nag-undergo siya sa microscopic alterations na lang. So, an intriguing area of study has been the connection between the existence of infectious pathogens and the emergence of lymphoproliferative disorders. So, human T-cell lymphotrophic virus type 1 or HTLV1 infection increases the risk of lymphoid malignancy and opportunistic tumors in affected individuals. When we say malignancy, what do we mean by? Can someone tell me? Pag sinabi mo malignant, can someone from the class raise their hand? Anyone? Miss Lovely? Others? How about Miss Wimzee?
Hello, am
Miss
I
Wimzee?
audible? Hello.
Ano,
When
ano?
we say hello po. When we say
Yes.
malignant po, it is used to describe cancer. Malignant cells grow in an uncontrollable way and can invade nearby tissues and spread to other parts of the body. Just like po yung parang, 'di ba kapag cancer, lagi siyang na-associate with the term malignant po. Parang ganun. How
Yes.
cancer works.
Nag-i-spread yun yung cancer cells all throughout your body, which is very, very dangerous or very harmful for a person. So, next one. Yung oncoviruses naman, these are viruses capable of causing cancer. So, that ends my discussion for the risk factors for non-communicable diseases. So, the next one will be discussed by the next instructor. Thank you again for listening.
So ayan, next is individuals who are likely to acquire these NCDs. Sino nga ba yung mga nakakakuha ng ganitong klaseng sakit? Anyone from the group? Any idea kung sinong mostly nakaka-acquire ng NCDs? Yes, Ms. Shanaia?
Ma'am, people all over the world po can acquire NCDs.
Ayan, tama. People of all age group and regions and countries are affected by NCDs. Walang pinipili ang mga non-communicable diseases because anyone can be prone to. Well, this condition are often associated with older age groups, but evidence shows that 17 million NCD deaths occur before the age of 70. Sabi ko nga kanina, walang pinipiling tao ang pwedeng makakuha ng non-communicable diseases. Of these premature deaths, 86% are estimated to occur in low and middle income countries. Children, adults, and the elderly, silang lahat are all vulnerable to the risk factors contributing to NCDs, whether from unhealthy diets, physical inactivity, exposure to tobacco smoke, or the harmful use of the alcohol. Next. In most countries, people who have a low socioeconomic status and those who live in poor or marginalized communities have a higher risk of dying from NCD than do more advantaged groups and communities. Sa tingin niyo, bakit mga taong may low socioeconomic status ang mostly tinatamaan ng NCD? Bakit hindi yung mga mas nakakaangat? Yes, Ms. Maranatha?
Because people in low socioeconomic status po is not fully aware po sa mga family planning and such. Kaya yung number of family nila is mas marami compared dun sa mga exposed at may alam ng halaga ng family planning. In that sense po, mas marami yung dapat nilang buhayin. And dahil nga po mas maraming dapat nilang buhayin, they tend to overwork themselves more than their capabilities. Doon pa lang po, mas exposed na sila sa mga NCDs. And then, after a exhausting work, yung parang pinaka-leisure po nila is yung paninigarilyo, yung pag-inom po ng mga alak, saka mga bisyo po and such. Marami rin po akong mga kakilala dito sa neighborhood na after nilang magtrabaho maghapon, ganun po yung ginagawa nila. And then, sila rin po yung mga mostly na walang kakayahan para agarang magamot yung mga NCDs na na-acquire nila dahil mas less po yung access nila sa mga healthcare services po.
Exactly. People or families in low socioeconomic status are not aware of what they're doing. Hindi sa nilalahat ko, pero some of them don't know what they're doing. Hindi nila alam kung nakakasama ba sa kalusugan nila yung ginagawa nila or ano yung epekto ng mga bagay-bagay na ginagawa nila araw-araw. Di gaya ng mga nasa high socioeconomic status, they are educated enough to what they are doing. Kaya nilang mag-hire ng professionals to check their health, right? So, NCD risk factors are often higher in groups with low socioeconomic status than in those with high socioeconomic status. The social gradient also depends on the country's stage of economic development, cultural factors, and social and health policies. For the next topic is we have the signs and symptoms of NCDs. First, we have here the cardiovascular diseases. What is cardiovascular disease? It is a type of disease that affects the heart or blood vessels. The risk of certain cardiovascular diseases may be increased by smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, unhealthy diet, lack of exercise, and obesity. These are the following signs and symptoms of having cardiovascular diseases. First, we have the shortness of breath, severe pain or discomfort in the chest, irregular heartbeat, dizziness and weakness, severe headache, confusion, difficulty speaking or difficulty understanding speech, loss of strength in arms and legs, dropping face, arms, legs, especially on one side of the body, difficulty of seeing with one or both eyes, and fainting or unconsciousness. Next is the cancer. Cancer is a disease caused when cell divides uncontrollably and spread into surrounding tissues. For example, we have leukemia. Leukemia is a cancer that begins in blood-forming tissues or bone marrow. We also have the lymphoma, which is a cancer that begins in T cells or B cells, and many more cancers. For its signs and symptoms, we have lumps or boils that can be a sign of tumor, weight loss, fatigue. When we say fatigue, ito yung feeling mo na sobrang hina mo or pagod na pagod ka. Next is the fever. Next, changes in skin, such as appearance of moles, changing of skin color to dark, yellow, or red. Unusual rash also may be a sign of liver, ovarian, or kidney cancer. Last is the sores that don't heal. Next, we have also the chronic respiratory disease. The chronic respiratory disease, or the CRDs, describe a range of disease of the airways and the other structures of the lungs. Gaya ng mga nabanggit kanina, they include asthma and respiratory allergies, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or the COPD, occupational lung disease and sleep apnea syndrome, and also the pulmonary hypertension. The following are its signs and symptoms. We have the chronic cough. When we say chronic cough, ito yung cough na naglalast for a month or longer. Next is the shortness of breath, chronic mucus production, and chronic chest pain. Next, we have the diabetes. Diabetes is chronic disease that occurs either when the pancreas does not produce enough insulin or when the body cannot effectively use the insulin it produces. There are three major symptoms of diabetes. We have the frequent urination, increased thirst and fluid intake, and lastly is the increased appetite. We also have general symptoms for it, like weight loss, fatigue, or the feeling drowsy after eating. But some people with diabetes suffer from blurred vision and some itching sensation in their genitalia. While yung iba na may mga sugat, sila yung may sugat na matagal gumaling or hindi na gumagaling. Bakit? It is because the body cannot produce or use insulin. These hormones turns the glucose or the sugar into energy, but when your body struggles to metabolize it, the sugar level rise, affecting your wound healing ability. And then for the last signs and symptoms, we have the tingling sensation in the hands and feet.
Okay, we have for the next topic, we have the preventive and control measures for NCDs. Okay, this is the World Health Organization Global Action Plan. Recommendations for national and global actions. So, next slide, please. First, we have the tobacco use. So, implement the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, FCTC. It aims to protect present and future generations from the devastating health, social, environmental, and economic consequences of tobacco consumption and exposure to tobacco smoke by providing a framework for tobacco control measures to be implemented by its parties at the national, regional, and international levels. Next, we have reduced affordability of tobacco products by increasing tobacco excise taxes. Di ba pag tumataas ang taxes, tataas din ang presyo ng mga bilihin. Kung saan paunti-unti na ang makaka-afford. Siyempre, pag unti na yung makaka-afford, unti na rin yung gagamit or mag-smoke. Next is, warn people of the dangers of tobacco and tobacco smoking through effective health warnings and mass media campaigns. So, students, if I were to ask you, how can you spread awareness about the dangers of tobacco smoking? Miss Jenine Wimzee, anong masasabi mo, anak?
So we can help raise awareness by informing everyone about the negative effects of tobacco smoking on our health and the health of other people kasi 'di ba may second-hand smoking. Also, holding a health screening day in communities with increased knowledge around the fundamental health issues and encourage individuals to look at their own health and lifestyle po.
Okay, tama. So next we have ban all forms of tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship. So ayon nga sa datos, it shows that comprehensive advertising bans lead to reduction in the numbers of people. Siyempre, kung wala masyadong advertisement about these products, siyempre wala masyadong maengganyo. Ganon. Next is the harmful alcohol use. Excise tax increases on alcohol beverages. So, gaya din sa tobacco kanina, pag tumaas yung taxes natin, tataas din yung presyo. So, liliit yung magko-consume ng mga alcoholic drinks natin. So, next is comprehensive restrictions and bans on alcohol advertising and promotion. Pero I think dito sa bansa natin it is still allowed. Next is restrictions on the availability of retailed alcohol. Last is implement the WHO global strategy to reduce harmful use of alcohol. The WHO global strategy to reduce the harmful use of alcohol seeks to improve the health and social outcomes for individuals, families, and communities with considerably reduced morbidity and mortality due to harmful use of alcohol and their ensuring social consequences. At isa pa, dapat din pinagbabawalan yung mga mga nagtitinda or bawal bentahan yung mga minors natin, 'di ba? 'Di ba tama naman 'yon kasi minor ka tapos bebentahan ka, parang inappropriate naman siya. Okay, next slide. Okay, unhealthy diet and physical inactivity. Oh, students, alam kong mahilig kayo sa eat all you can sa samgyupsal. Okay lang naman siguro, 'di ba? Tama ako. Okay lang naman siguro pag minsanan ganun, pero pag araw-araw na excessive yung pag-intake natin or pag-consume natin ng mga pagkain, lalo na yung mga maaalat or yung mga chichirya natin, taba or mga unhealthy foods in general. Siyempre, mag-lead ito sa obesity or unhealthy or hindi tayo magiging healthy, 'di ba? Tama. So, ano mga dapat gawin natin? Ito, una, salt reduction through mass media campaigns or reduce salt content in processed food. Next, replacement of trans fat with polyunsaturated fats. And lastly, public awareness program about diet and physical inactivity. Okay. So, bilang isang MLS student, use your voice to spread awareness regarding this. Di ba, class? May masasabi ba kayo kung paano kayo makakatulong para mag-spread ng awareness tungkol sa unhealthy diet at physical inactivity natin? Anyone? May I call on Miss Maranatha? Miss Maranatha?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. So, di ba, mga unhealthy behaviors natin or mga unhealthy diet natin and physical inactivity. So, anong magagawa mo bilang MLS student? How can you spread awareness regarding this?
Pwede po through social media since mahilig naman po kami mag-post na dyan. Pwede po tayong mag-share ng mga advertisement or mga precautions about po sa mga unhealthy diet and physical inactivity and paano po sila may iwasan.
Ayun, tama nga. Di ba halos lahat naman meron ng accounts or sa iba't ibang platforms. So, maganda yon. So, next is sa health system naman natin. Integrate highly cost-effective NCD interventions into the basic primary healthcare package. Explore viable health financing mechanism and innovative financing approaches. Improve availability of affordable basic technologies and essential medicines. And scale up early detection and coverage. Lastly, strengthen and reorient health systems. So sa strengthen and reorient health system natin, dapat address NCDs and risk factors through people-centered primary healthcare and UHC. Next slide. Okay. Cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Multi-drug therapy. So, ang kasali sa multi-drug therapy natin is glycemic control for diabetes mellitus and control of hypertension through a total risk management approach to individuals who have a heart attack or stroke and to people with high risk of a fatal and non-fatal cardiovascular event in the next 10 years. Next is acetylsalicylic acid for acute myocardial infarction. And next is multi-drug therapy, including okay. Sorry, naulit siya, guys. Sorry. Next is the cardiac rehabilitation post-myocardial infarction, secondary prevention of rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease, care for acute stroke and rehabilitation in stroke units. Also, treat congestive cardiac failure with an angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor beta blocker, and diuretic. Okay, next naman sa diabetes na tayo. Di ko na i-discuss kung ano yung meaning ng diabetes since na-discuss na siya kanina. Ito na lang yung mga preventive measures na kailangan nating isipin. Lifestyle interventions for preventing type 2 diabetes, influenza vaccination, preconception care among women of reproductive age. It includes patient education and intensive glucose management for gestational diabetes. Next is the early detection of diabetic retinopathy by regular dilated eye examination followed by appropriate laser photocoagulation therapy to prevent blindness. Lastly is the enalapril to prevent progression of renal disease. So cancer. Next slide, please. Next slide. Sorry, pero next slide po. Sorry students ha. Sorry mga anak kung may mga difficulties tayo. Paki-present na lang ulit, Miss Maranatha. Okay pa ba kayo dyan? Gising pa ba kayo, guys?
Okay pa po, ma'am.
Buti naman. Nakikinig pa ba kayo? Mukhang naantok ka na, Miss Ganeb. Okay, ano ba? Ano bang gusto niyong gawin? Gusto niyo magbalikan natin? Or magtatanong ako, gusto niyo ba? Kung nakinig talaga kayo. Nakinig ba kayo kanina? Ayan, okay na. Buti na lang. So next, we have cancer. So since MLS students kayo at na-discuss na kanina, ulitin ko, what can you say about cancer or what is cancer? Favorite ko na ata si Wimzee. Wimzee, anong masasabi mo about cancer?
Ma'am, so by definition po, cancer is a disease in which some of the body cells grow uncontrollably and spread to other parts of the body. Just like what I said dun po sa tanong ni Prof. Kylie kanina about malignancy. And as a MLS student po, we are very much familiar to what cancer is and what it does to our bodies because natakil na po ito during our first year in ANAFI. And from what I can remember po, ang cancers has stages like 1, 2, 3, and so on. Kagaya po ng natakal po ulit ni Prof. Kylie, yung pinsan niya po. And it can be very, very fatal to the patient po.
Ayun, tama nga. Mukhang nakinig ka ha. Kahit mukhang inaantok ka na dyan. So, ayan nga. Prevention of liver cancer through hepatitis B immunizations. So, the hepatitis B vaccine has named the first anti-cancer vaccine by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration because it prevents chronic hepatitis B infections, thereby preventing liver cancer caused by the hepatitis B virus. Next is the prevention of cervical cancer through screening, visual inspection with acetic acid, linked with timely treatment of precancerous lesions. Isa pa is vaccination against human papillovirus as appropriate if cost-effective and affordable according to national programs and policies. Ito pa, population-based cervical cancer screening is linked with timely treatment. Population-based breast cancer mammography screening 50 to 70 years linked with timely treatment. So, ayun. Sa chronic respiratory disease naman natin, access to improve stoves and cleaner. Fuels to reduce indoor air pollution. So, cost-effective intervention to prevent occupational lung disease. That is exposure to silica asbestos. Next is the treatment of asthma based on WHO guidelines. And lastly is influenza vaccination. This influenza vaccination is for patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Next slide. Okay, last na to guys. Makinig na kayo. Research and surveillance. So develop and implement a prioritized national research agenda for NCDs, strengthen research capacity through cooperation with research institutes, and also implement other policies options to promote and support national capacity for high-quality research and development, and also develop national targets and indicators based on global monitoring framework, and establish or strengthen a comprehensive NCD surveillance system, including reliable registrations of deaths caused by cancer registration, periodic data collection and risk factors and monitoring national response, and integrate of NCD surveillance monitoring into national health information system, and lastly, monitor trends and determinants of NCDs and evaluate progress in their prevention and control. So, these recommendations for national and global actions are based on evidence of high impact on population attribute, risk, and cost-effectiveness of interventions. They combine policy and community-level intervention, which impact on behaviors across the population, and health service intervention, which enable risk reduction in individual and high risk of NCD-related death or disability. So, yung last slide natin dito, next slide. Next slide, please. So, ayan. Ito yung contemporary prevention strategy of NCDs. Since nandito naman na siya sa PPT and alam kong kulang na sa oras at mukhang gutom na rin kayo, i-present ko na lang siya or I will send this PPT na lang sa GC natin mamaya or sa lens natin. Okay ba guys? Okay lang ba? And for your quiz, I'll send the link later and you have 1 hour to accomplish it. 20 items lang naman siya, so kayang-kaya niyan. Alam ko naman nakinig kayo. And sana hindi kayo magalit. Meron pa. Meron pa kayong assignment. Ito yon. Create a mind map. Send ko na lang ulit siya sa group natin, group chat natin, yung ibang details. And also a flyer or brochure that will be used in a campaign or program to spread the word about non-communicable disease at our next community service meeting. Nasabi ko naman na nakaraan yung next community service natin, di ba? Yun na lang yung isa nyong gawin, yung flyers. So, may mga katanungan pa ba tayo? Okay, mukhang wala naman. So, goodbye guys. Ay, wait lang. Turn on your camera pala muna and mag-print screen lang ako. Okay, lahat-lahat na po tayo mag-on cam. So, ayun.
Ayan guys, rinig ba ako? Ayan, thank you Ma'am Shaharmie. I'm sorry we were not able to introduce ourselves. So for formality, my name is Kylie Rosario Taguba. I am your second instructor. And Miss Shaharmie and Miss Pauline and Miss Julian will introduce themselves. Thank you.
So ako, I'm your last instructor kanina. I'm Shaharmie Bangalan, RMT, MD. And I hope we inspire you naman na-inspire namin kayo through this discussion. Okay, Miss Julian, please introduce yourself.
So hi, I'm Miss Jenine Maralit, your third instructor.
So, hello, I am Pauline Angela Pariñas, your very first instructor.
So, ayun guys, thank you. So, ulit, ayun pala, mag-smile na kayo. 1, 2, 3. So, ayun, thank you. Bye-bye. See you sa
Ayan,
next
thank
meeting
you
natin.
guys. See you next time.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
po.
Thank you po.